Welcome to Issues and Answers with your host Diane Kinderwater. Issues and Answers is presented as a public service to inform, educate, and better the lives of New Mexicans. And now, Issues and Answers with your host Diane Kinderwater.
Welcome to the program. I'm Diane Kinderwater. As we know, it's election time. The early voting starts May 10th. Probably has started already by the time you saw the show. And of course, the primary is June 7th. Very important election. We don't only have the governor, lieutenant governor, some Congress seats, but we also have Bernalillo County Sheriff. And we've invited all the candidates. Those who accepted are in our studio. They will be our guests. And I do have a constitutional candidate, he calls himself. If you don't know your rights, basically you don't have them because people can take them away. And it seems like that's been happening in our state a lot lately. According to my guest and according to me, my guest is Joshua James Ryan Lawrence. Again, he's running in the Republican primary. He's a constitutionalist, and he's going to educate us about our rights and about what he would do as sheriff of Bernalillo County. And of course, why he's running. So please stay with us as I introduce you to Joshua James Ryan Lawrence right after this.
The National Education Association of New Mexico, a union of teachers and school staff, believes every child deserves to learn at a school that inspires their imagination, cultivates their curiosity, and ensures a fulfilling life. Public schools should provide all our students with small class sizes and one-on-one attention. NEA New Mexico asks you to join us so together we can end the teacher and staff shortage and invest in our public education system once and for all. Sponsored by NEA New Mexico.
Welcome back to the program. I'm going to do the introductions right away to Joshua James Ryan Lawrence, constitutional candidate, and you're going to educate us a lot about the Constitution. Some of these things that were on your website were surprising to me. I call them a little radical, but you're saying it's in the Constitution, and if I don't know it, we don't have the right. So Joshua James, take it away.
Well, my name is Joshua James. I am running for Bernalillo County Sheriff. I would like to see the Constitution be enforced in our county, in every county in our state, in every county around the country as it should be. There are constitutional sheriffs around the country, and in fact there are counties around the country that are de jure counties, which means that they are fully constitutional.
What makes us not constitutional?
Well, all our elected officials take a constitutional oath to protect, defend, obey, and enforce the Constitution. Unfortunately, they don't enforce the Constitution. They enforce policy and corporate bylaws. They enforce statutes and codes. Now, originally, statutes and codes were created to govern law enforcement and elected officials. Those are their rules to follow. But I don't serve my servants. We are the masters, and the servants serve us. So as constitutional sheriff, I'll be serving the public. In fact, I won't even be taking a paycheck.
Why is that?
Well, I don't want the corporation to fund me. In fact, I don't think any of these guys should be getting these paychecks so long as we're dead last in the country at everything bad.
Oh, they're not earning a paycheck, I believe you're saying?
That's right. And so if the people of Bernalillo County want to elect me as sheriff and I'll clean house, they can pay me based off the job I'm doing. I read on your website that
you're interested in a forensic audit of the votes, a forensic audit of the budget, also following New Mexico Article 22, Section 19, and then again, if people fail to bond, quote, their oath, they're out of office. So please share with me that. But actually, before you get into those things, tell me a little bit about yourself. Have you been in law enforcement?
I have never been in law enforcement before. A lot of people will be surprised to learn that there's no law enforcement in this state. But we will bring constitutional law enforcement back to this state for sure. I grew up in Texas, in the Dallas area, Mesquite, Texas. My mom's side of the family is from New Mexico, so I spent my whole life going to summer camps and sports camps at UNM and working across the state. In fact, I used to be a far left Democrat. I used to be a delegate and treasurer for the Democratic Convention. and worked for many Democratic political leaders. And at some point, I gave up politics. I saw the corruption in it, and I didn't like it. If it wasn't for Donald J. Trump, our president, I would have never joined the Republican Party. In fact, as a sheriff's duty is nonpartisan. My job, and a sheriff's job in general, is to protect the rights of all people. So.
Well, let's hope so, correct? What's interesting, I was told by other guests that it's the sheriff's office is nonpartisan, yet you are in a partisan race running in the Republican primary. That seems like a misnomer.
Yeah, and I recently learned about the primary. I was told that the sheriffs were not going to be primary candidates, that all our names would be on that ballot. So that's pretty new information to me. I've been trying to recalculate some things. So.
Oh, that's a little surprising. You're told one thing and it happens to be the other. Or maybe it isn't surprising to you.
Before actually running, contacting both Secretary of State and the Bernalillo County Clerk's office, as well as the Board of Elections, I got different answers from everybody all the time and a bunch of I don't knows. So they definitely were not trying to educate us. If we didn't know how to make things work, then and we messed something up, that'd be on us.
Wow, that's scary to say. Okay, so a forensic audit of the budget of the votes. What do you mean by that?
Well, number one, when I come into office, Bernalillo County will be a constitutional sanctuary county. But then for sure, the 2022...
Wait, constitutional sanctuary. We've heard of sanctuary city, where we have people who are from other countries, who are documented, can come into our cities. That's a sanctuary. But what's a sanctuary constitutional county?
Our county, Bernalillo County, will become a de jure county. It means that the law of the land in Bernalillo County will be the Constitution, both the state constitution as well as our country's constitution.
What's happening now, Derek? What's happening now, Joshua James?
What do you mean?
They're not following the Constitution?
They are not following the Constitution at all. They do not enforce the Constitution. Like I said, the cops, the police, the sheriffs, everybody, they enforce statutes and codes, policies on us. Everything is about revenue generation, right? Everything's about making money. The police department, sheriff's department, the city of Albuquerque, everything is every department is a for-profit corporation. Now, if you have a for-profit corporation, it's all about the money. So it's not about people's rights. It's not about protecting people. It's not about educating people. It's about making money.
What can you do to educate us about how would our constitutional county look different than it is today? Please educate us.
Well, that's a big pool there, but
just the basics, highlights.
So when I first come in, I'm going to do a full forensic audit of the elections. So we'll know right away if the 2022 elections were fair and honest, because they were not. New Mexico is third in election fraud in this country. For being one of the smallest populations in the country, that's pretty heavy. And we definitely got to correct that. Where did you come up with that
number, the third?
Well, I work with groups all over the country that are working on the forensic audit everywhere. In fact, every state in the country comes to New Mexico for help on fixing this situation. In fact, I'm working with Otero County right now to help them become fully constitutional. They're doing a forensic audit. They just started, I don't know, maybe a few weeks ago, and they're further ahead than any other forensic audit in the country already. So we want to do the same thing here in Bernalillo after that election. But as well, we'll do a forensic or an audit of the books of the Sheriff's Department and APD. Like Derek had said earlier,
and he's another candidate running.
He's also operating on the Constitution, maybe a little bit different, but we're both on the same team here. The sheriff's duty is to know the Constitution, because if the sheriff who you elect to protect the rights of the people doesn't know the Constitution, then he's complicit in the crimes committed by everybody else that doesn't know the Constitution. But the duty of the sheriff, because APD has been under investigation for 5+ years, and we hold the statistics that we do, the sheriff should have already taken over APD. Which is what I will be doing.
Well, that's what you state here. You have a note to APD, the mayor will no longer be your police chief, for your authority comes from the county sheriff.
Correct. So,
and you're saying the state has that in the Constitution?
Well, that's the role of the sheriff, period, everywhere, since this country was formed. Even the sheriff's role in England. So, not much has changed. We operate on the same Canaanite law that we've operated on for thousands of years. So we should be pretty educated in that. Unfortunately, our schools don't teach the Constitution, government, civics of really any kind anymore. They just gloss over it.
So coming into office, Joshua James, what would you do? The forensic audit of the election, the budget, and also what would you do with the police chief of Albuquerque?
Well, the police chief is supposed to be personally bonded, just like every other elected official. So I might as well get into that.
Yeah.
Article 22, Section 19 of the New Mexico Constitution states that you get elected by the electors, that's us. You take your constitutional oath, and then you have 30 days from the time you take that oath to get that oath personally bonded through a bonding company, the same bonding companies our notaries go get bonded at. It's about a $150 bond that comes personally out of your pocket, and that bond protects you as the candidate in case any sort of crime or anything comes upon you, and it ensures that you uphold that constitutional oath that you took. So if you're not operating on the Constitution and you're bonded, you're now personally held accountable for that.
Do candidates do that? Do they get bonded? Do they know to get bonded?
There are only 3 candidates in our state that got bonded. Therefore, every other candidate that did not get their oath bonded forfeited their elected office. So technically, their office is vacant right now. And we, the people, if we knew our constitutional duties, we would go take those vacant offices, as is our duty.
You're saying, though, as if elected sheriff of Bernalillo County, you would go into those other elected offices, and if they hadn't, because you said first candidates, but then the elected officers within 30 days would need to be bonded. And
absolutely. The candidates that are already there that are not bonded, we will escort them out of their office, and we will hold a special election here in Bernalillo County by paper ballot to elect new officials.
You can't say they can't be bonded after they've received the office? They have to do it as candidates?
You have 30 days. It used to be 10 days. At some point it changed to 30.
After a candidate or after elected?
After elected. Okay. After you take your oath.
Oh, okay.
So the moment you take your oath, there's a countdown of 30 days.
Okay.
Yep. So we will be counting down those days, making sure that every elected official current gets their bond, and we'll happily help them do that.
Now, being naive on this matter, not having run for elected office nor being elected, do people in office know they're supposed to be doing this?
No, a lot of the candidates, especially, if you're just jumping in because you want to make change, they don't know this, they're not taught this. And a lot of the predecessors do not teach us either. In fact, the parties don't teach the candidates these things. And as a candidate, there's all kinds of classes that the party offers to teach candidates how to be a candidate, how to be an elected official, how to handle your paperwork. But they don't teach the constitutional rules of being a candidate.
Okay, that might be some exciting things down the road there.
And that goes for our judges as well. Our judges have to be bonded. And so when they're letting out all these criminals, right, and they're doing everything that we all know they're doing that not properly in their office in the court. Our courts constitutionally should be Article III courts. And what that means is it's a constitutional court. It's not a for-profit corporation.
You state also to bring back the Constitution, power of the sheriff for the people of Bernalillo County for the first time in history. This would also allow us to invite God back to our county as intended by our forefathers. What do you mean by that?
Well, when our forefathers created our documents, they absolutely used the Bible. I know a lot of people don't like that, but the separation of church and state is actually a fallacy. We are supposed to teach the Bible in school, because if you don't know the Bible properly, you can't know the Constitution or your Bill of Rights or the Declaration of Independence properly. So we have to bring God back to the situation. God has to be in court, because our rights are given to us by God the day that we're born. We're born an American, and 3 days after we're born, they turn us into a U.S. citizen, which puts us in a different class. That makes us peasants and chattel, which is exactly why we left England to come form America, is to get away from being peasants, to get away from regulations, permitting, licensing, statutes and codes. And that's everything that we're operating on right now. We are all meant to be kings and queens of our own castle, as we should all be. That's why America is the great experiment, because nowhere on earth has everybody been allowed to be kings and queens, which is why everybody in every country around the world wants to come and be an American and operate and live under our Constitution.
But it's eroding slowly but surely all of the rights.
They're trying to put it in exile, for sure.
You state that day one, all COVID mandates and restrictions would be limited.
Right. So mandates, executive orders, ordinances, they're not law. Law goes through our legislature, and there's a process to it, a constitutional process. And if it doesn't go through that process, it's not law, and you cannot force it upon the people. The sheriff of every county should have stood up to the treasonous governor up there in Santa Fe, and should have demanded that they stop making threats on the people of their county. And as sheriff, I will make sure to always stand up for the people of Bernalillo County.
Because many of them don't know their own rights. You state there will be no more violations of our Bill of Rights.
Right. Forcing those mandates is a violation of our Bill of Rights. Forcing people to put a mask on is a violation of their Bill of Rights. Forcing people out of their job, demanding a vaccination of something that there is no proof in the world, there's no ingredients list for you to look at, people are not informed properly of this shot, yet they're fired from their job. In America, nobody can come between a man or woman and their family and their way of life, living in the way of how they make money. Nobody's allowed to do that. In fact, even if you're a business owner, you know how the IRS comes into your business, the state comes into your business, the city comes into your business, and they take. Constitutionally, they can't do that. We have the right to have private business. And there are a lot of private businesses in this country a lot of people are unaware of, like the Boy Scouts of America, Girl Scouts of America, NAACP. Many of our courthouses and police stations are actually private. Their books are private to the people, from the people, and from the IRS. And that's how it should be. We should have the right to live. And the sheriff is there. That's why you elect that badge, to protect those rights so that nobody can ever come into your state, into your county, and ever disrupt your way of life. So long as you cause no harm, there's no crime. And that's the thing with statutes and codes. There's a lot of crimes there that give you tickets that are revenue generated, where there's no victim. In America, common law is common sense. If there's no victim, there's no crime. You know how many people are sitting in our prison for victimless crimes? That's not right.
You state you will bring back, you state that you will only enforce the Constitution, but then again, we do have our legislators up in Santa Fe who do vote and create statutes and crimes. Mm-hmm. So would you not enforce those that the representatives of the people up in Santa Fe, I mean, they vote for a sheriff, but also they vote for their legislators to create these, I don't know why they do it, but all these laws and statutes.
We have rules in our Constitution that supersede some of the things they do. One of those rules is any law repugnant to the Constitution is automatically null and void.
Can you give us some examples, Joshua James?
Well, you can't create a law that violates anybody's Bill of Rights. You can't do that. Gun laws, okay? Concealed carry. The moment you go get a concealed carry license, and the fact that they even created the law saying that you had to have a concealed carry license, that should have been thrown out. It should have never happened.
Because we have the right to bear arms.
You have the right to bear arms. You already have that right from the moment you were born. The moment you go get a license, you're now signing over that power of attorney of that right. So you no longer have your Second Amendment right the moment you go and contract for that license to
But do you
conceal
see,
carry.
Joshua James, those mentally ill, those with schizophrenic diseases and stuff should not have the
Sure.
right?
That's why as Americans, we are held liable. We pay the consequences to any sort of issue where there's now a victim. If you rob a house and you steal somebody's things, they're now the victim, and you can now go to court. You got to go see a judge, speedy trial amongst a jury of your peers, and you're going to pay the consequences of that crime. And that's how it all should be, everything.
Joshua James, Ryan Lawrence, how did you decide to run for sheriff of Bernalillo County? I know you worked in the film industry and various other things, but how did you decide to throw in your cowboy hat into this race?
I've been an activist for a very long time. I've been teaching the Constitution for many years.
Teaching it where?
We had a nonprofit here in Albuquerque for a while, American National Academy, where we were teaching people their rights. We were teaching the Constitution in its natural form. In fact, a lot of people don't know that there are two constitutions in every state. You have the original Constitution, and then you have a corporate Constitution. And in the very beginning of their corporate Constitution, it specifically states that they must still uphold the original Constitution. And basically they created that because of statutes and codes. But even in their own statutes, there is a statute, a rule in their statutes that says that we, no matter what, we have all rights guaranteed. So when they pull you over for speeding or something where there is no victim, they've already stepped on your rights. There's a difference between rights and privileges. Privileges can be taken away.
Well, they say driving is a privilege. It's something that they give us as a privilege. You have your driver's license to drive. That can be taken away.
There's something called legalese, okay, and that is the language that lawyers and judges speak. And in the Black's Law Dictionary, driving in itself is a corporate term. That's something you do when you're doing commerce on the road. So if you're doing commerce on the road, then yes, you have to be licensed. You have to, your vehicle must be registered. But as a king, as a queen, your private property, your automobile, that's your private property, and we pay taxes for those roads. We have the right to travel. We have the right to travel from home to work, to make money for our family, to put food on the table. And nothing can impede that. In fact, a cop is not allowed to even turn on emergency lights unless there's a victim. Now, I mean, there's a lot of things that we, the people of the county, are going to have to come to agreeance on, because that's how life works. That's how money works. That's how laws work. We agree upon them, right? Gold, at the end of the day, is just another thing. But we all agree
It has value.
that it has value.
So Joshua James, Ryan Lawrence, you'll be on the ballot this primary election, June 7th, for Bernalillo County Sheriff. What else would you like to share with the audience that I haven't touched upon? This sounds very novel and different than what we've experienced in the past.
Well, I'm going to be putting a call out there as we get closer to that date to all veterans around the country to, if you move to Bernalillo County, I'm going to deputize you. We're going to start by deputizing the vets, because our veterans in our Constitution are guaranteed a job in law enforcement. So we're going to hire our vets, and our vets have been properly trained. So then our vets are going to vet everybody else that works for those departments, and our vets are going to vet the public, and I'm going to deputize the public, which that's called the People's Posse. And because our county is, once again, #1 in homicide, #1 in child hunger, #1 in adult hunger, #1 in cyclists being hit by cars, #1 in pedestrians being hit, I mean, the list goes on. We need our public to be deputized to help protect this county. If you love this county, then you help protect your neighborhood. And I want to bring the children in. I want to educate the children. We got to put classes back in our school. And unfortunately,
What kind of classes?
Constitutional classes, is teach these children what their rights are, what was God given to them, as well as teaching gun safety. There's countries that teach gun safety from early childhood.
Do we have now, Joshua James, deputies? Are people deputized now? Tell us me a little bit. That's kind of intriguing. That
Anybody under the sheriff is deputized.
But I mean, the general public.
As far as I know, no. There was one sheriff in Sierra County, Sheriff Hamilton, that during the lockdowns deputized a church. That was Caleb Cooper's church down in TRC. When the governor was harassing him to shut down, he did a special deputy, and he deputized everybody in that church. That way the governor and nobody, health department, nobody could shut them down. So he gave them the power. I want to put the power of the people back in the people's hands, and I want to serve them.
You'd have them vetted. You say the veterans would be vetting the members of the public to be deputized. What does it mean to be deputized as a citizen? I have to own a gun, carry a gun? What does it mean?
If you don't own a gun, we'll give you a gun. The resources of this county and of APD are ginormous. There's probably entire warehouses full
But the deputies would need to be deputized.
Absolutely.
Need to have a gun.
And then we'll hold classes as well. Our vets will be teaching gun safety and the laws and anything that they would need to know to be a deputy.
This is the time when other politicians want to take guns away. You'd like to see those who are vetted with a clear background, without any criminal background, I imagine, any mental illness, to be able to be deputized. And they would, protect their neighborhoods, sight and scene, be able to?
Absolutely. We have a lot of ideas. I have a very large team, not just here in this county, but in counties all over the country that are also working on these same things. In fact, there's 5 sheriff candidates in this state right now and more coming aboard that are jumping on the exact same platform as I am, and we're all working together. As we bring our sheriffs on board, as well as the current sheriffs that are not out this year, that don't have an election, they're coming forward wanting to be fully constitutional. So if all our sheriffs in the state become constitutional, we can all team up along with all of our people posses and our veterans, and we can go handle the crime that's happening not only in our individual counties, but in the capital. We absolutely have that right to do. The fact is the people up in Santa Fe, they're committing treason on a daily basis. And in fact, they're trying to pass a law saying that if you say anything about them committing treason, you're now threatening them. Sorry, we the people are the overseers of our government. They are our servants, and if they're committing treason, we need to let them know that they're committing treason. And if they continue after being put on notice, then yes, they are now held liable. They have to pay the consequences of that crime just like anybody else. It's not rules for me, rules for the
Constitution. Joshua James, Ryan Lawrence, running for Bernalillo County Sheriff. Thank you for the education today. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for watching the program. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
In the Army National Guard, family means everything.
Our parents, they were really supportive that all 5 of us would join. I got my education because of the Guard. I got to travel a little bit and experience a whole different culture. It helped me get my job, helped me pay for my house. Being part-time really helped because I could have some opportunities that were still in education.
Serving part-time in the Army National Guard instills pride that you and your family will share. Visit NationalGuard.com to learn more about part-time service.
Issues and Answers with your host Diane Kinnewater is presented as a public service to inform, educate, and better the lives of New Mexicans. To comment on today's program or to purchase a copy of any Issues and Answers program, visit sunbroadcasting.org or call us at 505-345-1991.